From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Well, happy Monday to you all. I hope you had a good weekend. We got to start a new work week here, and we're starting off the new work week. Temperatures warmer than we should be for this time of the year, and they're getting even warmer the next few days. But we've also got some fire danger to tell you about as well. Before we get into the deeper dive forecast, let's get you through Kruger's Quickcast here so you know what to expect as you head out the door this morning. So for your Monday, September 30th, temperatures still in the upper 60s. So again, it's a mild start to the day in the valley, partially because those winds are pretty strong in many areas for the valley, and that's going to keep those temperatures up a bit. 40s for most of the higher elevations and coast. Although you can see in Trinity County, temperatures in the low 50s there. So we're already starting to see some of that warmer air begin to move in here, even in the morning hours. So let's talk about this. We've got a red flag warning for western Siskiyou County, Del Norte, and Humboldt counties here, and extreme northern, for all intents and purposes, basically just a red flag warning here. This is a little deceptive, and I'm going to tell you why, because I do think the winds will be strongest in the valley, dry conditions. I think where we've got the highest fire danger is in the valley, but no red flag warning there, at least as I'm reporting this in the morning. And in fact, a different resource is showing that it is indicating the strong winds, that W indicating where we got the strong winds, but we could also include in there the hot and dry conditions here for the valley. So there is some elevated fire weather risk here as well, as you can see here in the yellows, and not as bad for the greens, based on this particular forecast resource. But bottom line, it's just going to be windy out there for many of us and very dry. And of course, the heat is another contender. So we start off with 8 o'clock this morning. Look where the strongest winds are in the valley and the mountains and foothills east of the valley. You get in the oranges and reds, that's over 40 miles per hour gusts. All right, you can see the gust over 30 miles per hour in the valley, starting off that way in the morning. Gusty for the coast, but look at some of the higher elevations. You see that? We're seeing a lot of those yellows and oranges in there, but even off to the east as well. So here's the bottom line. We still have those gusty winds out there even as we go into the noon hour and even in the afternoon. But the good news is the winds will start to subside as we go through the second half of the day across the board. But then what we'll notice here as we go into, looks like, let's see what happened here. That was kind of a weird jump. That jumped as well. My button's just going a little crazy out there this morning. But I just wanted to show you here that again, I just wanted to mention the bottom line is this. The winds, low humidity, and heat across the board. And even though the red flag warnings as of this morning are only in this area, I think all of Northern California needs to be extra careful when we're talking about that fire danger. All right, so there you can see those temperatures for today. Not quite 100 degrees in the valley, but you can see 80s for the higher elevations and those mid to even upper 60s for the coast. All right, now we'll take a look at that 7-day outlook, and this is where things really start to heat up, especially for your Tuesday, Wednesday. The temperatures start to slowly drop. But even as we go into the weekend, we're above normal. And it's still pretty hot out there, even going into this upcoming weekend, especially for the valley. Now for the mountains, basically mid to upper 60s, no big surprises there. But I mean, look at inland, look at Weaverville. You're up to 100 degrees here by tomorrow, maybe a slight drop on Wednesday, maybe another slight uptick on Thursday before we see them go back down to about 90 for this upcoming weekend. But that's still pretty warm. We're still getting pretty hot out there even as we go into the weekend. Now we take a look at the Siskiyou County, Modoc County, and Eastern Mountains. Generally in the 90s for the next couple of days, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, and then there's that downward trend. And this is where we're going to start to see those cooler temperatures for the weekend. But again, still mainly above normal for this time of the year. All right, that's your quick cast, as quick as I could go. We had a little bit to talk about, but now let's go into the deeper dive. So again, the main things that we're focusing on is the elevated fire danger due to the gusty winds and the humidity. We talked about that briefly. We're going to talk about that as we extend it out the next few days. Summer heat returns through midweek. Now it's going to be hot to start off the week, especially in the valley, but even hotter tomorrow and Wednesday with a gradual drop in the temperatures, but still hot as we go into the weekend. Now looking at the long range, we're going out the next week, 2 weeks. we don't see much rain, if any, in the forecast. So it looks like it can remain fairly dry. So again, want to remind you, this is where we have the red flag warning as issued by the National Weather Service. Now, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if later this morning we see a red flag warning get issued for the valley and the surrounding foothills. But as of right now, there isn't. Now, this is until 11 o'clock in the morning, by the way, and this is something I showed you a little bit earlier in the quick cast. But again, just reiterate that this is where we're seeing the strongest winds, lowest humidity, and the strongest heat. So for me, this is where I'm actually seeing the highest fire danger. But I don't want to dilute the fact that we still have high fire danger everywhere else, because we do. But look at this morning at 6 a.m. Look where the strongest winds are in the valley and the surrounding foothills. That's where we're seeing the strongest winds. But again, not diluting the fact that we've got strong winds in the mountains too, because look at these little specks here of these strong winds. You're looking at yellows, oranges, even some reds. So that's upwards of 30 to 40 miles per hour. Still very warm up there in the mountains, still very dry as well. So that's why we've got that elevated fire risk. But again, this is where the Weather Service has decided to put the red flag warning. But look at the winds here that we have here as well. High fire danger as a result. Now, the good news is, as we go through the day, there's the noon hour, we take into the afternoon, the winds do start to subside across the board. Now, as we go into tomorrow morning, still a little breezy for parts of the valley. And by the way, these winds are coming from the north. And as you know, north wind, that is not where we want the winds to be from during these wind events, because they tend to dry things out even more and heat things up even more as well. But you can see the wind is really starting to kind of break down by the time we do get into Tuesday morning. Maybe a little bit more elevated off in the eastern mountains, but nothing terribly concerning as we go into Tuesday afternoon. So let's take all of the elements into consideration. The temperatures, of course, the humidity and the heat. But before we get to that, just want to illustrate, this can be very dry. I got a little ahead of myself. But there you can see we've got the humidity levels down to the single digits, even barely just above the single digits in the eastern mountains. Now, where we have the higher fire danger, humidity levels are also very low there as well. And typically, we don't even see the humidities get that low in these areas here. So this is certainly something we need to really pay attention to and focus on. Now, you can see the humidity levels go up a little bit here, but still pretty dry conditions for the valley and still pretty dry in the eastern mountains. All right, now let's take a look at that fire weather risk. This is combining the heat, the humidity, and the winds. Look where we have the highest fire danger, in the valley. And again, keep in mind, as of this morning, as I'm reporting this, no red flag warnings here. But we still need to be aware of the fact that we've got high fire danger in the valley. Strong, gusty north winds, dry conditions, and of course the heat. Let's take you into Tuesday. It's not quite as elevated on Tuesday. Why? Because the winds aren't as strong, but still dry and still hot, and more of that southerly flow of winds. That's a little bit better. All right, so a quick reminder, and I haven't pulled this map out in a while because we really haven't had high fire danger in quite a while. All right, so don't drive on dry grass and secure those chains. If you're towing a trailer, make sure the chains are not dragging on the ground. That can create sparks. Those sparks then can create fires. Never toss cigarettes on the ground. Use grills on gravel or paved surfaces. Mow your lawn early in the morning and when it's not windy or excessively dry. So this morning, probably not a good idea. It's pretty windy in the valley, so I'd say probably hold off mowing your lawn today for anyone. Just put it that way. Never leave fires unattended and always properly extinguish those fires. All right, enough of that. Let's get into talking about this heat. So what you'll notice is the ridge of high pressure right here. See how that's just nice and building and strong? That's the reason why our temperatures are going to be increasing here over the next couple of days. You can even see a bit of a low pressure system here, not having much of an impact on the weather anytime soon. All right, so let's take a look at Futurecast. Look at that, plenty of sunshine. I mean, I don't see a cloud in the sky, even for the coast. As we go into your Tuesday morning, all right, now we're starting to see that marine layer get a little bit closer, but still sunny skies for the coast for your Tuesday. Now, as we go to Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, maybe some fog redeveloping here around the Eureka area and kind of the Humboldt Bay. That maybe starts to dissipate, though, as we go into Wednesday afternoon. But otherwise, everyone else seeing those sunny skies. If we take a look at that precipitation outlook, it's drier than normal. But again, here's that ridge of high pressure I was pointing out. You can also see this area of low pressure and cooler air. That will actually ride up to our north, and it will kind of flatten out this ridge. So believe it or not, even though we're going to be going in a bit of a mini heat wave, if you will, over the next couple of days for your Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got this kind of this broad ridge of high pressure. This could be stronger, which would mean it would be even hotter if we didn't have this storm up here riding to the north, flattening out that ridge. Because if this wasn't here, then we'd be looking at more of a ridge like this. And when you have that bigger dome of high pressure, what happens, right? You see those hotter temperatures as a result. Now, again, keep in mind, too, we're seeing the lower angle of the sun. We're in the fall season, so that also helps to contribute to temperatures not getting quite as hot. But bottom line, it could be worse if we didn't have these storms up to our north. All right, then that starts to kind of move on out and weaken. Yes, we've got this ridge of high pressure for the end of the week, but it's not as very strong. But temperature is still pretty hot out there. There's that cooler air that's going to be moving in closer to us. That rides up to the north, pushes that heat down to the south. But look at Sunday. We still have, especially over the desert southwest, the ridge of high pressure. That's going to keep those temperatures fairly warm, borderline hot through the weekend. And look at this. As we go into Monday, Tuesday of next week, we see that ridge down over the eastern Pacific kind of redevelop. And we still have another ridge of high pressure over us, even going into Monday, Tuesday of next week. So what does this mean? Well, it means temperatures will most likely stay above normal, well into the 90s at least, for the valley, with the exception, of course, tomorrow and Wednesday, where we got temperatures 100 degrees or higher, right? But this also means not only is it going to be warmer, but it's going to be dry. We just don't see much rain in the long-range outlook. So you take a look at the temperature outlook, and all of the western United States in that warmer than normal category. And that's just because we've got that ridge of high pressure that's holding on fairly strong. So again, you saw that there was some relief in there, and there will be, right? So we're seeing the peak of this warming trend for this week, Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we see just this gradual trying to drop. You see how it's just this gradual, it's kind of like the market, right? Where you see this little, but when you see that trend where it's just working its way down, you see little spikes here and there. That's what we're seeing right here, right? It goes up a little bit, then back down, then up a degree, back down. And then we're eventually down to, by a week from this coming Wednesday, down to about 90. But the normal high is upper 80s. So we should stay above normal over the next 7 to 10 days. So yeah, there's some relief in there, but it's still going to be pretty hot anyway you look at it. Now the wave heights, as you can see here, going into your Monday afternoon and of course Tuesday, not much change going on here. They're going to stay fairly high. Now, there is a small craft advisory that should be allowed to expire later this afternoon, but you can see the winds are from the north at 15 to 20 knots, waves from the north at 8 feet at 10 seconds, and from the west at 2 feet at about 10 seconds. All right, so here's your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Those temperatures low to mid 90s on the Highway 299 corridor. There you can see about 95 degrees for Weaverville. Lewiston about 93. That's not 299, by the way, but you can see 96 degrees for Big Bar. 94 for Hayfork, and Ruth about 93 degrees. Now, we take a look at the north coast, and we start with the coast. Temperatures there will be in the mid 60s, give or take, for the next 7 days. So this is where we're really not seeing heat waves in the coast, or temperatures dropping or rising a whole lot. But that's typical, that's normal. We may start to see more clouds, though, enter the picture here by the time we get to the end of the week, this upcoming weekend. But look at the warmer temperatures inland. We're up to 97 Orleans, 96 Hoopa, 97 Willow Creek. Again, not quite 100 degrees, but it is getting closer to that, and that'll probably be closer to that by tomorrow and Wednesday. Take a look at your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, mainly in the 80s, those cooler spots up to the north and east with those higher elevations, mid 70s. Temperatures around 90 by Tuesday, Wednesday, and then gradually dropping to the low 80s by this upcoming weekend. And you can see for Modoc County, about 80 degrees for Canby, 80 for Calpines, and El Terce about 79, and 74 degrees in Cedarville. So what we're seeing here is the temperatures mid to upper 80s by the time we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday, low 80s by this upcoming weekend. Let's take a look at your Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast and look at Susanville. We're back up to low 90s for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then a gradual drop into the mid 80s by this upcoming weekend. But for today, 87 Shingletown, 82 Viola and Mineral, and 92 degrees for a high today in Paradise. Let's take a look at your Valley neighborhood forecast brought to you by Walgamuth Painting. Your temperatures will be in the mid-90s. 95 degrees for Corning, 94 degrees for Orland, Willow Creek about 94, 96 in Oroville, and 94 degrees in Gridley. All right, we take you up to the north with 97 degrees for the city of Shasta Lake, 98 for Reading, 97 Cottonwood, and 97 for Red Bluff. All right, so let's take a look at that 7-day outlook. And yes, it's warming up. 102 for Reading by tomorrow, 101 Wednesday, still about 100 degrees on Thursday, upper 90s for your Friday, Saturday, and still hot even on Sunday with a high of 96. That's your morning update. I'll be back at noon with your latest forecast.
At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.